What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another Thursday night episode of Clapback Culture. I am your co-host, Jules Jessie, with my co-host, Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald. Welcome back, Mike.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready. We got
Happy
so much.
Friday Eve, as they say on the morning update. How are you? How's your week been?
I had a long week, but a productive week. So I would say it was good. And this is the highlight right here. So I'm ready to get going.
It's always the highlight. Well, welcome everybody. What's up, Leon? I'm seeing you guys coming into the stream. Glad to see you guys here. We have a lot to talk about today, so we might as well jump right into it. So y'all know last week, Mike gently brought up the topic about this genetic modification, this system called CRISPR. And we wanted to talk a little bit about it, a little bit more about it, y'all. And quick background, and then we'll run to the clip, right, Mike? So CRISPR is a technology that can be used to edit genes that's likely to change the world. Not my words, their words. The essence of CRISPR, which is an acronym, I couldn't figure out what the acronym was for, but I'm sure you know. They say it's simple. It's a way of finding a specific bit of DNA inside a cell. After that, the next step in the CRISPR gene editing is usually to alter that piece of DNA. Now, we have a video that's going to talk about how they're using this system to help with underlying health conditions. Let's see.
Two beautiful little Chinese girls.
This is the doctor who changed the future of the human race and let the world know on YouTube. He Jiankuai stunned the scientific community with the claim he pushed the boundary no one else had.
A line has been crossed that should not have been crossed.
It's very disturbing. It's inappropriate.
Oh, this is huge.
He says he genetically edited human embryos, not just for research but for implantation, leading to the world's first births of genetically altered humans, baby girls born in China from embryos designed to be resistant to HIV.
For this specific case, I feel proud, actually.
The tool used by He, called CRISPR, is found in labs around the world.
It gives us the precise way of cutting the gene or putting a new piece of gene in.
It's often used by researchers trying to treat incurable diseases.
The method itself is very easy. You can use it
everywhere you use it now.
Leaders in the field of gene editing have collectively agreed it's too early to implant edited embryos in humans because of the risks, the unknowns, and the ethical questions about altering humankind.
We're at a hinge of human history.
William Hurlbut is a leading American bioethicist who teaches at Stanford University. In the months before the news broke, Dr. He consulted with him.
Every time we met together, we would talk about the seriousness of the issues and in a sort of stepwise way what you had to do to make sure that it was done right. But when I heard that there were live-born children from it, I thought, oh my gosh, he just jumped ahead.
Well, Mike Davis, you had a lot to say about this on the morning update, how, like Leon said, you want the 6'10", chess whiz. What are your thoughts on this? Share it with us. And really, let's talk about, how this could really support incurable diseases.
Sure. Well, so first and foremost, the actual idea behind it is you can stop people from getting those incurable diseases in the first place. So in this clip that we saw, those two baby girls that were born, they had their genes edited to be resistant to HIV. So like they can look at your genetic code and, and they do this kind of now where like they can look and know like if your baby might have Down syndrome or things like that. Well, with CRISPR, you could just take that piece of the genetic coding, remove it, and just add clean code so that it doesn't happen. I think that the actual idea behind it is great. I think what I run into is the fact that I'm an American, born and raised in America. I know what happens when capitalism gets its hands on literally anything. The first thing we want to do is monetize it. And when you think about the ability to rewrite the genetic code and how you're going to monetize it, the first thing I'm thinking about is synthetic babies. I'm thinking about being able to create the perfect child. And I'm telling y'all, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And look, man, I see you guys in the comments. I understand the eugenics movement and all of that. Yeah. But look, man, you think we're about to sit here and let rich folks make perfect babies while everybody else, what are we supposed to do? We're about to let China go breed super soldiers. They're going to take over the world.
Listen, I am not for genetically modified food, and therefore I'm also not here for genetically modified people. But to each his own. I mean, if you want a Frankenstein kid, by all means, jump out here and have that. What I do think is interesting, though, and these are the scientists, these are the people that are way smarter than me, the people that understand this world of math and physics and laws of attraction and all of that other stuff I couldn't retain in school. But what's interesting about this, y'all, and what I read in an article, according to the Innovative Genomics Institute, that sounds very anyway, but they're talking about coming up with a way to solve the problems of COVID. And so they want to create a vaccine that goes into your DNA to basically forbid any current and future variants to come to develop. So they're trying to come up with like a genetic version of the vaccine to ward against COVID. Interesting. And I think it's also good, when I was reading the article, you guys, a lot of people talked about how this would really support underlying health conditions. And so if I was somebody with, sickle cell, and this is something that you can prevent in your DNA or be able to extract or something like that, I think that's definitely important. And that I could get behind, right? I can get behind doing things like that in order to keep people healthy, but I'm not really into it to have the perfect eyes and the perfect face and the perfect body. And nah, I'm good off that.
Once you open Pandora's box, we're not going to be able to close it. It's here. Now, mind you, I don't have 100% say in my household. And after my morning show update comments, I was strictly forbidden. But we're going to work that out. We're going to keep working because this is crazy, man. This is going to change the world. And man, I'm trying to be first.
You know what? Shout out to Mike's girl for checking him in the household, because it's just too crazy. Because you were flaving on the morning update with your little comments.
I love the idea of this. I love the possibilities of this, and I think that the first thing we're gonna do in our country is abuse it. So I really just wanted to sign up and be the test subject. Like let me be first.
Okay, let me ask you this though. Do you eat genetically modified food?
No. I don't even eat meat. No.
So why are you like, this is so crazy? It's like, yeah, I'm a vegan, but listen, I'm for,
because this is your genes, man.
It's the same thing.
It's different.
It's a genetically modified person.
Listen to how that sounds.
It's disgusting.
I'm in the future.
Too futuristic for me. I don't know, you guys. I cannot. For me, it's a hard no. Again, I've said it over and over. Amari and Trey Holiday decided to ask me this at the end of my segment today, and I told them vehemently, absolutely no, thank you. I'm good off that. I'm just really good off that. I'd like to stay organic. I'd like to just turn out the way I turn out. I want my kids to turn out the way they turn out. Point blank, period. I love you guys in the comments. Exactly. Are we gonna have soldiers? Like, what is this breeding? What are we breeding?
We're breeding the perfect, healthy, smart, athletic humans.
You know what?
Crazy eye color, crazy hair.
Nah. You know what? We're moving on.
I want my next baby to be born with dreads already.
You know what? No, Mike Davis. All right, moving on, you guys, to something more realistic. And since we're talking about genetically modified food, there is no food in the grocery stores. And so we want to talk about, like, how the hell did we get back here? Grocery stores and shelves and the shortages are back with a vengeance. It's feeling like March and April of 2020. And we want to talk about how the hell did we get here? Because I know for sure that I had to go to like 2 or 3 different grocery stores to find salad. again, in addition to the cost of food rising, I mean, inflation is out of control right now. I think a gallon of milk was $6. A pack of bacon, you guys, no lie. I don't even eat bacon. Well, I eat turkey bacon, but I saw the package of pork bacon because that was all that was left. And I still eat pork. Come on, y'all. Come on. I know you guys, we talked about them chops, but a pack of pork bacon was $12. That's crazy. On top of the fact that when I did go grocery shopping, it just was like limited stuff. There wasn't a lot of things on the shelves, and we know why. And so we want to have a conversation about why that is. Labor shortages, right? We know that people are getting COVID in vast numbers right now. And so it's just sweeping. People are calling out sick. Their, articles are, the NPR article that we read also is saying that the winter storms are basically cutting off roads for transportation, as well as the labor shortages of drivers just not being able to fulfill the orders. That whole trucking and shipping thing. And so really it's just like the perfect storm on top of climate change, right? So it's like the winter storms and then climate change in terms of like the actual production of food is, it's just like a clean sweep.
That's crazy. And yo, I'm not even gonna lie. I haven't drank cow's milk in so long. I had no idea it cost that much. That's insane. But we had that article that NPR dropped last week, but it's crazy how it kind of worked out. The Seattle Times dropped articles back to back. They dropped an article yesterday and they dropped an article today that just happens to be on this same subject. So I took some notes and I just kind of want to run through some facts with y'all. So today, the Seattle Times dropped a story. It was on Fred Meyer's and QFC workers and their struggle to make ends meet. So recently, there was a survey of 10,000 Kroger grocery store workers, and it found 78% of them struggle with securing food and shelter. 3/4 of them suffer from food insecurity, and 38% report that they sometimes just have to go hungry. 14% of these workers work at Kroger, but they are homeless. 56% of them are struggling with their second jobs because everything is so crazy that they never even know their schedules week to week. Employees were quoted saying that their hours are now being cut to save money for the company. Kroger introduced hazard pay and was giving every employee an additional $2 an hour for hazard pay, but that only lasted 2 months before they pulled the plug. And in the midst of all of this, Kroger CEO Rodney McMullen made $22 million in salary last year. In the second article they dropped, which was just about worker shortage in general, back in April 2020, the Census Bureau started tracking the rates at which American workers are calling out sick. Between December 29th and January 10th of this year, 8.8 million workers were out sick with COVID. That's the highest number in that time period or in any given time period since they started tracking this data in April 2020. I think January of 2021 was previously the highest 4-week period, and that was at 6.6 million. And right now we're at 8.8. This is the highest numbers. In recent weeks, there have been severe shortages, specifically in trucking, port logistics, air travel, and garbage collection. But the trucking one stands out because that also directly affects the shortages that we see. So there's a lot going on here. Like you said, the perfect storm. We had the weather, we got all of that, but also, man, just the inflation. A lot of grocery store workers are reporting that the money that they're making in the grocery store isn't even enough to buy groceries anymore. There's also like people saying that it's hard to be at that register checking people out to buy food when they themselves can't buy food. People are quitting those jobs, and it makes perfect sense. So when you're going in the grocery store and you're seeing that those aisles are empty, there's food. There's no need to panic. It's just a mix of COVID, wages. It's the perfect storm.
It is the perfect storm. I appreciate Maggie's comment, and that we do need to also highlight that these corporations are seeing an increase in profit. And I'd like to see some statistics and report some data, if you will, that definitely demonstrates what, you know, these large corporations are receiving due to the price gouging, right? If we're paying, you know, we're paying this much. I saw a TikTok, you guys. I love TikTok. And it was a TikTok of this girl that said, here's $120 worth of groceries in 2020. And she had like all this stuff on the counter. And then it was like 2022, $120 worth of groceries. And it was like 4 things. And that's honestly how I feel. I mean, I'm just me feeding me. And it's like almost $200 a week in just groceries. And most of it is like fresh fruits and vegetables, lemons, 2 lemons for $1. And I'm going to the international market, which is like usually the cheapest it can be. Like two lemons for $1. It used to be 6. You could get 6 lemons for $1.
Crazy.
So it's yeah, it's OD. It's crazy. I mean, don't even get me started on gas prices. Like, it's costing me $65 to $85 to fill up my tank. And I don't even have a commute. Like, I have 0 commute, and every time I fill up, I'm like, wow, it's getting super close to $100. So on a good day, like if I go to Costco and get gas and it's like under $4, yeah, I can get like 65, 70 bucks. But anything in that $4 range, nah.
It's still sky high. Like I don't know what we do and where we go from here, but we're all feeling these same effects. My guy John Jupiter sounds like somebody's turned to selling squirrel skin do-rags. Never thought it would come to that.
Yeah, well, I might need to tap into that market. So you already know. But yeah, anyway, it's crazy. It's definitely crazy. And you know, a lot of people they were already, you know, food insufficient. And so a lot of people are really struggling. I can't imagine some of the larger families having to figure out like how to feed their families, especially healthy food options.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's cheaper to go to McDonald's or go to KFC and feed your family on the dollar menu than it is to go in and try to buy food for a family of 4, cook it, prep it, and then feed everybody. So
right now, it absolutely is. Yeah. Trust me. Like I got a family of 4. Eating out for sure feels cheaper than hitting these grocery stores. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, what's also crazy is Navient, you know, they're the devil's spawn. Navient, y'all, basically reached a settlement. They agreed to pay out $1.85 billion in student loan settlements with, and get this, you guys, this is interesting. So I'm gonna read this article. You guys know Navient's one of the largest student loan servicers in the country. They split from Sallie Mae a long time ago. Anyway, they reached this $1.85 billion settlement, which sounds like a big deal, with more than 3 dozen states. Okay, again, sounds good, but basically this only is debt owed to 66,000 borrowers. That's nothing. 45 million people have student loan debt. This article says that only 66,000 people were paid off in this $1.85 billion settlement. Those numbers are crazy. Think about that. Let's start thinking about, I mean, if that's not predatory lending, I don't know what it is. But basically, under the agreement, Navient is denying that they violated any consumer protection laws or caused borrowers any harm. The lawsuit basically says that the resolution included $1.7 billion in private student loan debt. Amen, because that's good, because I didn't know that Navient serviced private student loans. I thought it was only federal. But that 95 million was also in restitution for the borrower. So that's interesting. But the company says that, you know, they came to the decision to resolve this matter based on, you know, that it wasn't true, that it was based on unfounded claims, but it was just easy for us to avoid the additional burden, expense, time, and distraction to prevail in court. End quote.
That's how you know they got too much money. You know they got too much money. They was like, yeah, okay, we'll give you these little shekels because it's not gonna hurt us, but we're not gonna admit any wrongdoing. And it's interesting that you bring up the point that you didn't know that they did the private school loans.
Mm-hmm.
Those were even worse than the state school loans, from what I read. They were doing these loans knowing that students would never be able to pay them off. They also kept hitting kids, or I keep saying kids, I guess a lot of us are adults now, but they kept hitting students with the option for the furloughs. So like you could stop paying for a period of time, but then they would jack up your interest. So then when you finally start paying again, some people was owing double their original amount. So it's wild how they were able to get away with this. It makes me mad reading this, knowing that our president campaigned on the fact that he was going to do away with all of this. And yet here we are. We're seeing how predatory this is. We know that, like, yes, it's 45 million Americans, but it's $1.7 trillion. That's trillion with a T. And that's the reason why I don't think anything is really going to happen. I don't know if America is ready to let 1.7 trillion blow in the wind, even if it's to these private corporations, because America is a corporation and they're always going to protect the corporations before they protect us.
So you bring up a good point. A couple points that I want to talk about, right? Because we always talk about like, what can the government do to do student loan forgiveness? And it's not really going to be this clean sweep of like, because there's a difference between forgivable and canceled debt, right? And we want that canceled debt, that $10,000 canceled debt that President Biden discussed. We have not seen that, and we have not seen that come back to the table. Nor do I feel that lawmakers have even agreed to do so. There was a survey that I read in an article on the AmericanPress.org. And it was interesting because they surveyed lawmakers to see if they themselves had student loan debt. Were they still in student loan debt? And some even, they responded to the survey, and some of them didn't even want to talk about the fact that they did have student loan debt. But even there were so many more that said they did not have any student loan debt. I just thought to myself, like, damn, is that like, how do you get to that point where you don't have any student loan debt? For me, I had to take out private student loans. And you guys know I'm open and transparent. $24,000 in private student loan debt that I had to finally consolidate the debt, right? Or refinance, excuse me. The issue with that, and here's what I feel Congress needs to do. When we talk about student loan forgiveness, we talk about cancellation, we really need to talk about the system, right? Because the system itself is broken. And so we need to talk about how to re-educate borrowers, and we need to put an end to confusion. There's a lot of confusion around what makes you qualify for forgiveness programs. And so we need to really get that tied down. What is important to know? How do we qualify, right? And it's going to help to really ease that burden of debt on a borrower. When I first came out of school, I had no idea what programs I qualified for. And loan servicers like Navient do not tell you what programs you qualify for. And that's the second thing, is that we need to improve oversight and transparency, because these companies are failing to inform borrowers of their repayment options. I used to call and be like, you want me to pay $400 a month because you're charging me 10.4% interest on a private student loan debt, and I've been out of college for 2 years, and then you want to only offer me forbearance, which is only sending that money to the back of my loan so that it's extending the life of the loan. Again, I signed this loan when I was 19 and pressed to go to college. And thank you, Norfolk State, for the best experience of my life. I don't care how much student loan debt I'm in, because it was the best experience of my life. However, it's things like this that make it predatory. First of all, why is my interest payment 10.4%? First of all, why am I on a variable interest rate? Anyway, you know what I'm saying? And I think lastly, we need to put an end to default and collection agencies. This was really, really high stress, you guys, because when I was a young borrower, still am, I had cosigners and my aunts and them cosigned. And if you weren't able to pay, they were blowing up your phone. They were calling you at work. They were calling you at home all hours of the night and day. Mike Davis, I'm not exaggerating to you. It was crazy to the point where the level of stress to pay off this debt that wasn't even due. And you're thinking like, okay, but how can you get somebody, you got them all wrapped up into this program, but you're not telling them their options for repayment. What is it that I can pay so you can stop harassing me? And that's what this lawsuit ultimately was about. Was ultimately about the borrowers saying that they went way too crazy. You know what I'm saying? And that they were being, threatening. They didn't tell anybody about their repayment options and things like that. And so I'd like to see Congress implement that into a broken system, if nothing else. But it would be great to get $10,000 off my student loan debt. It'd be great for 50,000 of, forgiveness, coming soon. I mean, I work as, for an elected official. I feel like I'm serving and doing work in my community. Look at all these, these nursing students, these doctors, like people who are working for community-based organizations, teachers, my God, our teachers. Everyone should be able to qualify in their line of work if they've, paid for this college degree. And it's just crazy because, these loans are guaranteed by the federal government. Why are the servicers calling us like this money is not guaranteed by the federal government? It's crazy.
It's the system. And I think Leon's comment, while yes, Leon, it's a bit dramatic, but I do understand what you're getting at, because really you got to look at who has to take student loans in the first place. It's not the rich kids. It's not the people that already have money. They're just going to go to school. Somebody's going to pay for it and they're fine. But for people who are not born rich, who are actually trying to make it high, like I feel like all of our lives, our parents tell us, we want you to be better than us. Like your generation is supposed to surpass us. You're going to have your kids and they're going to surpass. And that's how we're supposed to climb. Well, America's created this system where to climb, you need that degree. So it's like, without the degree, it's really hard to like make it unless you're about to go play a sport or you have an amazing singing voice. But like for just regular Americans, this is supposed to be your ticket to be able to make something of yourself. Instead, it's just crippling debt. And like, who does it serve? Who does it really serve to have all of us be in debt like that? It's just, oh man.
It's tough. It's tough. And I wish again, I'm really a big advocate for financial literacy in schools. We should really understand how money works, how credit works. I was lucky enough to have worked in a bank. I worked at Washington Mutual, guys, when I was in high school, and I spent a lot of time with the broker there. And he taught me just a lot about the stock markets and just money and financing. And just working in the bank and seeing people, making withdrawals, making deposits, having their own business. It got me really interested in money and how to generate wealth. And it's important, which is why I was a stickler on buying my house, and I didn't care what it took. And, it's the little things that we have to do to create generational wealth so that our children and the generations behind them do not have to struggle like that, because I could sell my house and pay for my kids' college. You know what I'm saying? And it's an asset. So assets, liabilities, debt, all of that. We need to have conversations about these things that are just now buzzwords. We need to talk about crypto. We'll get you on that soon, but it's a loaded conversation, and we absolutely need the federal government to step in and see what it is, because 45 million people struggling to pay this or just defaulting on it altogether. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not paying my federal student loans. So there's no way I would be like, there's absolutely no way I could afford to pay that and my private student loan. I said, you guys are going to get one or the other. Okay.
Well, I heard that. And Catherine Keller just put a comment up that I think is interesting. And like, it says 8 to 10%, you'd be better off getting a home first. But the thing is, where are you going to get the money to get the home? Like, what kind of job are you going to be able to get to put yourself in a position to buy a home without a college degree? I think that in the society where we live, you know, I mean, 45 million Americans, so many people have college degrees now that a lot of jobs, like, that's just the standard. I worked in a place one time where we had a job opening. We had 270 people apply for this job. A college degree was not a requirement for the job itself. But because we had so many applicants, HR was like, okay, we're just going to take the people with college degrees, and then everybody else we're not even going to consider. So it's hard to even put yourself in a job where you can, especially in big cities. You're in DC, I'm in Seattle. You're not about to live in Seattle if you don't have a college degree. Where you think you're about to work at? So it's the system.
It is. It is. Well, one thing the government wants to give us for free is these COVID tests, y'all. I don't know if you guys signed up to register to get yours, but the government launched its website to sign up for the free COVID-19 test. These are the rapids, allowing people to order a max of 4 tests shipped directly to their household. The administration official said that once a request is made through the website, the tests are expected to ship out within 7 to 12 days. Thanks for that. Honestly, Mike, when I tell you I got a cabinet full of rapid tests, like, I don't know.
How'd you get your hands on those? Who you know?
DC, they give them out every single day from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can go down and get 2 boxes a day, 4 tests a day. So we ain't tripping over here. We good.
Well, you go ahead, DC.
We're Gucci.
I ain't heard about that in Seattle, man. I mean, but
I've been mailing them out. If you need one, I got you, brother. You know, I've been mailing them out.
Yeah, man. I mean, from what I heard, if you don't got no symptoms, you don't need to test anyway.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. Honestly, if you have symptoms, there's really no need to test because you know you got it or you know you're sick. So it's like not even important. If you got symptoms, you should just quarantine. I was really like nervous when Omicron first came out. Like I was testing every day. Rodney was like, stop testing yourself. I was like, I would have to test because I'm like, oh my God, post-nasal drip. Am I coughing? Do I got a headache? And I kept taking the rapids, but I was taking rapids and PCR tests like every day because I was just nicked up and paranoid. But listen, guys, it's a free test. It's some rapids. Order it. It's free. They'll come and, come to the mail, put them in your medicine cabinet for if you should need it. And in fact, like if you have, friends or family traveling from in and out of town, you want to test them, have them stand on the porch for 15 minutes, do the little swab and then let them in. If they're, it's a good way to... Good way to keep it social. But look, y'all, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about doing it for the culture. We got some crazy, crazy spit videos to talk about. We'll see you soon.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Y'all, welcome back to Clapback Culture. I honestly just can't stop thinking about this student loan debt and how I can't believe we're making headlines about 66,000 borrowers. Anyway, well, something else that's popping off in the news is that 270 doctors wrote in an open letter to Spotify, basically making a demand that they stop Joe Rogan from spreading lies and misinformation about COVID. So here's the tea, y'all. So there's an infectious disease epidemiologist and research fellow at Boston's Children's Hospital named Jessica Rivera, and she has almost 400,000 people on her Instagram. Well, she uses her platform to basically debunk health misinformation. Well, her followers started tagging her and sending her links to an episode of Joe Rogan's podcast. And I guess it's just a note in Rolling Stone that this is the most popular podcast in the world, except y'all know it's here at Clapback Culture. But nevertheless, people are tagging her and sharing this episode with her. And Joe Rogan is doing an interview with Dr. Robert Malone, who is a virologist. I don't know what that means, but it sounds pretty fancy. But anyway, she basically discredits him and says that, you know, he's a guy who totes himself as one of the architects of the mRNA technology. Anyway, long story short, she basically teams up with 270 doctors and they write this open letter basically calling on Spotify to be more responsible. And I quote, the letter reads, Spotify has a responsibility to mitigate the spread of misinformation on its platform through the company, though the company presently has no misinformation policy. The open letter to Spotify does not request that Rogan show be taken off the air, nor does it demand that Spotify remove the Malone episode in particular, but rather it's just calling on Spotify to develop a comprehensive policy prohibiting misinformation. So it's interesting because they signed this big, I think, $100 million deal with Rogan on this very popular podcast. And so they're just basically saying like there needs to be some oversight. Where's your policy? What's up with that? And as of the, Spotify still has not yet responded to the letter. But shout out to this epidemiologist who, is speaking truth to power, I guess. Mike?
Yeah. I mean, look, I love the Joe Rogan podcast. Always have, always will. And I'm going to be real though. I like it because it's entertaining. If you're going there to get medical information, I'd probably say you're stupid. And I know that's disrespectful, but he's a comedian. And I think that's the thing that gets me so charged up about this story right here is that people, citizens, like, how did we get to this place where we're looking to celebrities and entertainers to be the ones that give us information? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not Joe Rogan's job to be your doctor. It's your doctor's job to be your doctor. If you're going to listen to Joe Rogan over actual medical professionals, then I just kind of think that that's on you. And I guess maybe there would be an argument if they said not to have a guest come on and be misrepresented. So like if it's like a disgraced doctor, then maybe, but I'm always going to be weird with censorship, and I'm never really going to be down to like censor anybody. Like I'm sitting here in front of a microphone. I don't want nobody coming in here telling me what I can and can't say. So I feel weird about somebody telling Joe Rogan what he can and can't say. But I also will point out that Joe Rogan is a contrarian. That's his shtick. That's what he does. That's what he always does. Whatever is common culture, he's always going to come in and try to be counterculture. Like that's his thing. So like all of the stances that he's taking on COVID were actually really, really predictable. I just don't really understand why people like hang on the things that he's saying or go to his podcast. But as far as like Spotify not responding, of course they're not going to respond. Joe Rogan's podcast averages a reported 11 million listeners per episode. You know how much advertising revenue Spotify is going to pull in? The rumored $100 million contract that they gave him. You don't give somebody $100 million if you're not going to make that back. There's just too much money on the line for Spotify to step in. But at the end of the day, man, celebrities do not need to be our activists. Celebrities don't need to be our doctors. Celebrities are there to entertain us. Let them entertain you and just leave it at that.
I like Maggie's comment up here where it says, I'm just scrolling up. The best cure for bad information is more good information, not censorship. I think that's really clever, actually. I never really thought about that. But, I am of the opinion that it is a slippery slope when you begin to censor people with a platform. And we discussed this a lot when we talked about, Donald Trump. There's so many people. This whole thing of misinformation and fact checking really came out in the age of Trump and really accelerated in the age of COVID. I mean, these are really great conversations that we're beginning to have. And now that we are in a digital kind of environment and everything, and everyone can brand and have this platform to speak and talk to viewers. These are just new things that we have to learn how to mitigate. But again, with 11 million people listening in, I do believe that people, the speaker is responsible for the information that they divulge, and the viewer has a responsibility to determine what they want to intake from that. And so it's a give and take. I try to make sure that I'm as informed as possible before I come on the pod and just talk. I'm not coming here to just talk my shit and, just, say anything. And I don't believe, Rogan is doing that. I'm not a fan of his podcast, just because that's just not my content of choice. But I mean, with 11 million people, obviously there's something that people like about that. And so I don't think that's necessarily, one bad episode or one episode that people did not agree with. I mean, this still, he did have Gupta on there, right? And CNN loves to put Dr. Gupta on there. And so where is the outrage in the conversation about that just as much? And so I'm going to agree with Maggie on this and just take that same stance. If there's a lot of bad information, then we need to come out with more good information. At the end of the day, people have the right to make a decision on what they want to make a decision about. Whatever you intake is what you're going to put out. And so if that's not what you believe, don't subscribe to it. Simple
I agree.
as that.
And I'll also say, I think one thing that I like about Joe Rogan in particular is that he talks to people on both sides. He doesn't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or this or that or whatever. He'll bring anybody on and he'll talk about anything, and that's appreciated. But I think that as a society, we need to have standards sometimes, and we need to allow for gray areas. We need to allow for nuance. I think that if you're an entertainer with a podcast, I think that we should hold that to a different standard than if you're a journalist. So like when I come on here, I can't just come on here and just pop it. Like I can say like, oh, I would have a CRISPR baby, but I'm not going to give you misinformation about what CRISPR is. You know what I'm saying? Like as a journalist,
it's important that even if you're not a journalist, right? Like if you are a person with a platform, we are now in the age where like, if you're a person with a platform, you have to be responsible for what you do, say, and feel to that platform, And again, and maybe you don't have to, maybe that's your brand, is that you just are irresponsible, whatever that may be.
Like, why are we trying to hold Joe Rogan to the type of standard that we should be holding Dr. Fauci to? Like Dr. Fauci shouldn't be able to give you misinformation.
Dr. Fauci doesn't have 11 million viewers every episode. He's not getting paid $100 million.
It's not Dr. Fauci's fault that Americans are idiots and that they'd rather tune in to Joe Rogan than listen to the top medical expert in our country. Like whose fault?
I disagree with that. I don't think it's about fault or blame, Mike. Think about this. People come to our pod to listen to things that are trendy, culturally relevant, and a different way to digest information. I'm going to Joe Rogan or another pod to get information in a way that I might be able to understand it. Maybe I don't want to listen to Dr. Fauci's old ass talk about epidemiology and COVID. Maybe I want to hear it in my everyday pod that I'm going to listen to in a way that I can understand and take it in. And so I do feel that he has a responsibility to his viewers, to his listeners, to make sure that he's giving out good information, right? Relevant information. And if he wants to have an opinion on the information, and that's fine, because his own opinion is his own opinion. And that's the part that listeners have to say, do I agree with this opinion? Am I going to take that opinion in or not? You know what I'm saying?
I do. I get, yeah, we're just on different sides. I don't, he just has to entertain. At the end of the day, Joe Rogan is a comedian. I think what he says should be funny. And I think that that's the standard that he should be held to. I think the same thing about Dave Chappelle, or insert anybody here. Like, if you are a comedian, make me laugh, period. If you're a doctor, then give me information. Like, there's plenty of podcasts that you can go to get information from credible sources on COVID. Yeah. I don't think that Joe Rogan should be one of them.
I agree with that. And I also agree with Chip saying listeners have to have discretion. I agree with that. I agree with that too. All right, y'all, we're going to move on to the next point, and probably the last thing we're going to talk about on today. Pastor Mike Todd of Transformation Church. He leads Transformation Church, is a mega church out in Tulsa. And he did a sermon based around the idea that receiving a vision from God might get nasty. And he did this.
Changing something and you don't see it clearly yet, but you hear. And this is where most people would not face Jesus anymore. What most people would do is turn away. What I'm telling you is, just as he's physically standing here, knowing what's coming, God's saying, can you physically and spiritually and emotionally be able to stand when getting the vision or receiving it might get nasty? I'm going to say it in a point just like that. Receiving vision from God might get nasty. You mean, God, I just bought, in crazy faith, I just bought my dream car. And now you're going to ask me to sell it back and ride in the hoopty again? Yeah, because the vision I'm about to give you, it might get nasty.
That is so incredibly nasty. So the incident came about 40 minutes into the sermon. It was a 2-hour service. And Pastor Mike Todd is discussing the book of Mark, chapter 8, verse 22 through 25. And it's a Bible passage in which Jesus restores a blind man's sight in a village by rubbing spit into his eyes. And so he was making a point there. The guy who is in the video with him, who allowed him to rub the spit, is his biological brother. And Pastor Mike Todd came back on and he apologized. And he said, it's never my intention to distract others from God's word and the message of Jesus, even with illustrations. I apologize for my example being too extreme and quite disgusting. I just want to acknowledge what happened yesterday when the spit hit the fan, and I watched it back and it was disgusting. Like, it was gross. I'm a big fan of Pastor Mike Todd, and he's very, very over the top in terms of the way that he tries to highlight a point. This right here is over the line. And I'm like, it won't no deacon, no wife, no assistant pastor that said, hey, look, bruh, you didn't take this to a whole nother level. But I'm gonna be honest with you, Mike Todd. If you guys watch the other sermons, he's a very, very, very good pastor. He's only 33 years old, and he's the head of this mega church, and he is phenomenal. This right here is just so totally off brand for him that it's like a viral moment. But I am positive that he is gonna see past this, and I don't think it's gonna stop him from doing anything else. Like his church and his following is gonna back him up.
He must have the strongest following in the history of following for that man to sit there and get. I don't even have words. Are you serious? He was hocking loogies.
So nobody has heard of Mike Todd before this, y'all?
I've never heard of him before this.
Dang. Okay.
This right here, this is
like the worst way.
Fit with like mud in the earth. He didn't just hawk loogies, and I can't do that.
You know, I mean, I had to go look at the verse, right? I went and I pulled the scripture, honey, because I said, I don't know. I don't know if this was what Jesus was talking about.
Omicron is in these streets, man.
Big COVID in these streets, bro. And he said, and
he got it from the way back.
It was the slime for me. Listen, y'all, the Bible verse, I had to go through and read it. Jesus performed a miracle. Your brother didn't get no miracle off this. He said, my brother is bald, and after the spit, he's still bald. Amen. It's a little too much. He took it too far. He took it way too far. Damo, I know you know Pastor Mike Todd. Me and Dominique, we go to the same church. This is just, it was too much. And I'm glad that he came out and said it was too much. But I would offer that you guys give Pastor Mike Todd another chance. If that is your stitch, if that's your zhuzh, he's really, really, really a good pastor. Seriously. And it's hard to say that after watching that video. But yeah, when I saw he went viral, I was like, what the hell did he go viral for? And I was like, oh,
unbelievable. I can't believe he did. I can't believe I seen that. That was so hard to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think people would have he might need to have a little talk with Jesus. I agree. He probably did have a big talk with Jesus after that and was like, yeah,
you better have a talk with bruh. Like, you just rub spit. Like,
yeah. There's just no backing that. There's no backing that. I can't. I don't have any follow through for that. We honestly, okay, let's do one more topic before the end of the show. I wanted to talk about this prison topic. So we're going to fast forward to that, Cuddy. So in Arizona, you guys, there is the Arizona Department of Corrections awarded a contract to private prison operator CoreCivic. So they plan to transfer 2,700 prisoners from a state-run prison to a private facility in a move that's expected to cost the state more money while generating millions of dollars of profits for the private prison industry. We talk about this stuff all the time, that these private institutions are making bank off people. So according to the documents posted on the state procurement portal, Mike, the Department of Corrections considered bids on the contract from CoreCivic, and there are other people that bid on the contract that were going to save them money, and they still awarded it to CoreCivic. After some investigation and some research into this, they found that Arizona lawmakers invested more in private prisons after record high campaign contributions from the industry in recent years. Say no more.
That was wild. And I read that too. And it's like, literally, like, they're willing to lose taxpayer dollars in favor of the prison companies that are making donations to their campaigns. This is the country we live in. They got a 5-year deal that started in December at $85.12 per prisoner per day. The current rate for the state prison was 78. So they literally paid more. But the part that really caught my eye with this story, though, is that the state of Arizona, contractually, though, like in their contract, they guaranteed a 90% occupancy rate for this private prison. So not only are they spending more money, but they're guaranteeing that they're going to keep that prison full. And that to me is just sick. I mean,
yeah, I mean, how do you even do that? How do you guarantee a 99% occupancy rate? Is this
how
a
can you
hotel?
guarantee? You're literally guaranteeing that people are going to go to prison. So how do you enforce that? Does that mean that you're going to have to call the judges? But look,
you know what? When I read the article, y'all, that's exactly what I thought about. I thought about how are you going to ensure that you have a full house? Okay, so there obviously is some corruption down the line. And so it goes all the way down to police officers. You're having, these invalid arrests, and then you're having, prosecutors make these terrible deals. You're having the judges stamp those stupid deals, and then you're flooding them into the prison system, and then you're making sure that they don't get out.
Yeah,
there's zero compliance on this.
I just seen a story too coming out of Virginia where a police department in Virginia had been using false DNA reports to coerce people into pleading guilty for crimes. Like they were like forging the documents saying that they had your DNA and showing it to you without like turning it in or doing anything official, and using that to coerce people into pleading guilty. So it's a really, really dirty game. But I thought of that story when I saw this story where they're guaranteeing 90% occupancy rates in this private prison that they're wasting taxpayer dollars on. And it's just a sick system.
Almost $10 more. So it's
per person per day.
Per day. All right, y'all. Well, that is our show. Thanks for tuning in with us yet again for another week. Thank you, Mike Davis, for putting this show together. Next week, we'll be here, same time, same place. But in the meantime, Mike Davis, where can I find you?
You can find me at the South Seattle Emerald. Wherever you find the Emerald, you're going to find me. Also, Wednesday mornings, you can catch me 11:08 on the Morning Update Show.
Yes, we love the specifics. All right, y'all. I'm Jules Jessie. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Treasure of JULES. And of course, on Thursdays, right here at Clapback Culture and Morning Update Show, most Thursdays. I don't have a specific time. I think I come on at like 10:55, 11 a.m. Top of the segment. So I'll see you on the Morning Update on Thursdays. All right, y'all. Well, that's our show. It's been great. Please send us in show topics so we know what to talk about next week. What do you want to hear about? I know we didn't even get to talk about the voting rights bill crashing and burning into flames. I think we already knew that. But again, we got to keep this show. Next week, we'll talk about it. We'll go through it. All right, y'all. Till next week.